In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome to District Divided, a DC Sports podcast. I am Amit, one of your hosts. Along with me, I've got Matt, I've got LC, I've got Spencer, and I have got K. It is good to see you all, and we have an awesome episode for you guys, and we're going to begin with Bradley Beal. There are lots of trade rumors swirling around now because it sounds like he's reconsidering his future with the team. So we're going to talk about, should we keep Bradley Beal? Do we believe in the Wizards project right now, or should we just blow it up and trade him? And then to who? What would it take? So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about one of the hottest topics, which is mental health. Simone Biles dropped out of the final for the U.S. women's gymnastics team, saying that, hey, mentally she just wasn't right. We saw this very recently with Naomi Osaka withdrawing from the French Open. So the question is, the present day athlete, 10, 12 years ago, this would have been unheard of. But now, is it Mamba mentality? Is it win at all costs? Or do we consider the mental health? It's the humanity of athletes. We're going to talk all about this. And then we get to our no hate debate, your best in-home defense weapon that is not a gun. That was cited last week. K-Dot's got his answer, and you're going to hear it again. And then we conclude with the State of the Union, a heavy one, your DC Sports wraparound coverage segment. But as I'd said at the very beginning, we are beginning with Bradley Beal, our all-star, I think, all-NBA player. He is sensational, but there were rumors that he wanted Sam Cassell to be the head coach and not Wes Unseld Jr. Sam Cassell did not even get a second-round interview with the team. So he seems to be reconsidering his future. The NBA draft is right around the corner. It is tomorrow, 8 p.m. ESPN. So the question, and I'm going to start with you, LC, is with Bradley Beal. We have Russell Westbrook. We have a bunch of young guys, new head coach. What do you think we should do in light of this news?
So I don't want to trade him. Let's just start with that. I don't want to trade him. I think he was inches away from being top scorer, right, of the NBA. And so the only thing we praised in the entire past season about the Wizards was the offense. Now we're going to trade that away? No, I don't think that's a smart choice. So I would say I understand that the talk about, he's got 1 year left in the contract. And so it may be like a sort of smart move to do it now before he loses his value. If they were to do that, again, that's not what I'm advocating, but if they were to do that, then I think you need to have a very clear vision of what are you building around. Are you going to build around whatever you're bringing for Brad? Are you going to build around Rui and what we have already? Do you also trade Russ? Because you're not going to just keep Russ over there and, sort of wandering around with not Bradley. And so I just don't see a clear path in which the Wizards get something much better or a clear benefit from trading the number 2 scorer in the NBA, a huge part of their offense. And I also think that trading him would add just a little too much change from one season to the next. You're getting a new coach, which is a degree of change that can be good. And if you take out Bradley, you add some new guys plus a new coach. At that point, you just have to blow it up. Like, everything is new. People have to get used to playing with each other. Like, it's just nothing's going to happen for a couple of seasons. So I don't think it makes so much sense right now to trade him for something that's just like not clear at all that is going to help us. But if you do, then again, I would say something clear. I want this vision for the team. I want this kind of player to build around, not just like, let's see what we can get for him and see what we can work with.
And maybe the NBA landscape sort of changed a little bit with the Milwaukee Bucks winning with what people would not call a super team, for example. So the East looks open in that respect. I mean, we have Bradley Beal, we have Russell Westbrook. If we're able to add a third star and roll the dice on somebody, maybe that is the way forward. But I like what you said, Elsie. We need a clear vision. K-Dot, what are your thoughts being the other local on the podcast?
I think that LC is right on as far as the aspect of building around something or someone, right? So like when Milwaukee, who's getting all these praises about like not having lottery picks as far as these guys that come up and they've done what it is they need to do, they built that team around Giannis. And you could see that for years. It's the build around Giannis. They put together the final puzzle piece of Drew Holiday, but that was a clear, all right, this is the guy that we need to keep above all else. We need to make him happy, number one. And number two, we need to do everything we can to build around him and move forward. When it comes to the Wizards, there are no easy answers right now, right? Because, I mean, look, this roster, they overexcelled last year as far as when we saw the team, I'd say midway through the season, and seeing that they did end up making the playoffs. That we did make the playoffs and were injured out the wazoo, right? So nobody really expected us to do anything there. There's a part of me that would love to run it back. So that's the thing. The amount of thought processes that are going through my head right now is that I want to do right by Brad. So if he wants out, I'm not gonna question that too much, because I mean, he deserves to be able to do what he wants to do. From a team standpoint, I don't like trading known commodities for draft picks. I think it's stupid. I think it's way too much of a crapshoot. I'd rather sit with the picks we already have and just see what works out. But if you're saying that Brad is going to be up for a potential guy who looks like something, like the James Wiseman, do you hear his name getting brought up? If there's an opportunity to get something for him, and let's say we get a Wiseman top overall pick, like that kind of guy, all right, maybe along with a few other things that might be something that's intriguing, right? Like I wouldn't say no to it necessarily, but I mean, if I'm looking at, if I'm ranking what I'd like to see most, I want to see them running back. I want to see them get another piece. I like that we got a defensive-minded coach. I've got that we've got somebody who's going to make that the focal point. I know that we've got young guys who've shown flashes on defense. Denny Avdia just needs to get more time on the court. He already looked he looked ready to be a good defender in the league, at least somebody who's be around as a role player as a defender. Like that to me is what I would most want to see. But if we're trading anybody, even the Russell Westbrook rumors right now, which is that the Lakers might go after a Russ or a CP3, I don't think that's going to happen, honestly, just because I think there's too many moving parts for LA to need to make that work. But I'd actually say I'd be more apt to trade Russ than I would be to Brad, just because I'd rather build around Brad than I would Russ, honestly. But beyond that, I mean, I don't think there are any right or wrong answers. I just don't want to see a situation where Brad is getting traded for nothing but draft picks. You got to give me some young talent in there too.
But you can't trade around Brad, or you can't build around Brad, because from all intents, it looks like that he will not be here past next year, right? So what are you necessarily building around him? I get he is an elite player, an elite talent at the top of his value. Outside looking in, now I'll say one thing is that all you're doing is fast forwarding your process by 1 year by trading him away. You will be bad next year, or will be bad the year after. If you trade him now, you'll be bad next year. If you trade him, or if you keep on him, you'll be bad the year after that. So I think you're kind of just fast forwarding the process. I think it makes sense. I disagree. I think in the NBA draft picks, high draft picks in series of years can warrant success. I think in the NFL it's a little bit different, but I think in the NBA, if you can guarantee you'll get a 7th overall pick, a 4th overall pick, something like that. If you're trading him for that this year, I think that is worth it. So I don't know. I would say I kind of see where you're saying, Akadine, where it's like it'd be fun to run it back, and I just don't think they're destined for success this year. Next year, it's probably going to take 3-4 years of good drafting, developing, and going from there.
K-Dot, I want you to respond.
Tough first week for Wes Unseld Jr., I'll say that.
True. K-Dot, I want you to respond, and then I have some thoughts, because I think Matt brings up a really good point. Go ahead.
I think the only thing with the draft picks right now is that unless you're doing what the Lakers did after they won that championship, they sucked for a few years and then use all that draft capital to go get AD. I don't see like that to me. And I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Brad Beal is out after next year. I really don't. And the reason I don't, I know Giannis is a different situation than Brad. Ages vastly apart, but Giannis staying in Milwaukee and then winning a championship. I think right now, if I'm Brad, who I'm probably looking at more than anybody else is Dame Lillard, because I still think that's up in the air. I think there is going to be a bit of a pushback right now where unless you are putting me in the absolute position where it's like a slam dunk, Brooklyn didn't even win a championship this year. So, I mean, I don't know if you think that the grass is always necessarily greener if I were to go somewhere where if Washington backs up that Supermax again, and I have a roster or I have a coach in an organization that are really doing what it is they can to build around me, do you really know the grass is always greener on the other side? I don't know. I'm just saying that I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
I think that also we're kind of getting away from the point of you have two guys that are actually valuable. There's really no one else on the team that will garner any sort of value. You have two guys that you should be building around. They're in their primes. They're not out of their prime yet. Both Russ Westbrook and Brad Beal. Hold on.
There's two.
There's two guys. Everyone else is expendable. If I am the Wizards, I could care less about anyone else. Like, okay, Denny Avdia, like he had like 5 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. Even Rui Hachimura, I like the guy. He's really cool. He's not a superstar that you can build a team around. They should be doing everything that they can to get their 1B or 2B banana in to play with Russ Westbrook and Brad Beal. Let's not dump those two guys to say, hey, in 7 years, when these younger guys are now 30, that they're going to be good. No, why? You have 2 elite players right now. Build around them. Trade everyone else and get another 2 guys in that can actually play. And on the topic of trading known commodities for draft picks, I totally am with Kate on this. I'm against Matt. You never trade known commodities. I don't even care if you have a 4 pick or a 5 pick. How many top 1 picks have gone bust in the last 5 or 6 years? There's been multiple. I mean, Anthony Bennett was a number 1 pick. He's not in the league. He doesn't play anywhere. Like, he was a number 1 pick. The NBA is a crapshoot. The number 7 pick has no value necessarily. It's all up in the air. And you have a guy like Russ Westbrook, you're going to or Brad Beal, you're going to change over for Wiseman, who was fine. I don't know. I don't see how you can do that.
He's worth more than Wiseman, for sure. And I'm not that high on Wiseman. He did not have like a great year. But I'm not saying Brad trade him 1 for 1 pick. I mean, he's worth many first-round draft picks. So,
but even the Warriors could give Wiseman could be Wiseman 7 and 15, right? Because the Warriors have 15 as well.
We have 15. So Washington 15. The trade that has been thrown around on Reddit threads, on Twitter, etc., would be Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins to make the money work with Brad's contract, and then pick 7 and 14 this year, which I think is probably the most enticing of the lot we've seen so far. Because if you're then talking about future picks, those are late 20s, and those are basically valueless. There's so few players that end up turning into superstars in the 20s. You see some in the teens, but
if I'm the Warriors, I take that. I take that all day long. I'm going after. If I'm Warriors, I'm going after Siakam or I'm going after Brad, and I'll give up Wiseman. I'll give up all my future picks. I do not care. You have a win now. Like, you got to win now, like in the next 2 years.
Agreed.
Brad and Dwight Howard, they got a championship in Golden State.
Agreed. But the Warriors, but what you're saying is that prior to doing that, you're kind of saying that the Warriors and the Wizards are in the same spot, and they're not. Like, the Wizards are a few pieces away from contending for a championship in the end of the prime of their best era ever. The Wizards are nowhere near a championship.
Right.
So and I don't even think any amount of pieces, taking all the draft capital, which I think Rui probably has more draft capital than Russ or anything like that, but taking all that, I still don't think they're anywhere close to championship.
No way.
No, he doesn't. Russ just averaged a triple-double this past season.
Okay,
so
Russ also makes $40 million. He makes $40 million.
It might be a little over the hill, but someone may try and pursue him as a final piece.
To me, there are only 2 ways to build a championship team in the NBA right now. Luck into some shit in the draft, a la Giannis, Luka, or anybody else is a late pick, and then just so happen you can burn through and you lucked into the shit, or entice superstar athletes to come play and get 2 or 3 of them together. And the only way you're going to get a superstar athlete to come play together is you get enough draft capital to go trade for one, or you have it like. So I'm almost with Spencer in the sense of just leverage everybody to go get a third option with Russ and Brad. If at the end of the day, if I've got to look forward to us building through the draft the next 2-3 fucking years for something that is not at all even close to guaranteed, most likely we're just going to suck. I don't know if I want that.
The only way I'm trading Bradley Beal is if it happens today. And the reason I say today is because that Warriors offer is probably the best you're going to get. I don't think you're going to get anything better than that. And then you're talking about future first. Again, that's the late 20s. That's not rebuilding. That's just it's not even a dart throw. Sometimes it's just off the dartboard. Doesn't even hit anything. So we talk about Luka. We talk about Giannis. That's pick 15. That's pick 14. Whatever you have, and you would have pick 7.
What are you guys talking about?
I'm sorry. Not Luka. Not Luka. I was thinking about Kawhi. I was thinking about Kawhi Leonard. I was thinking about Kawhi Leonard, and I was thinking about Giannis.
I was thinking
those 2 were pick 15.
I got my Eastern Europeans mixed up. I was thinking about Jokic.
Jokic is even later.
Yeah.
Jokic second round. But no, I was talking about Kawhi. I misspoke. I was talking about Kawhi, and I was talking about Giannis. Sometimes those teams work out. But that's the only way I'm trading Brad is if it happens today, because I think that's the most value you're going to get. They're also older. Russ is older. Brad is getting older. And Matt's big point, and this is the biggest point, is Brad going to stay past this year? If you rolled the dice on someone like Kristaps Porzingis, whose value is at an all-time low right now, would that be enough to make him stay? You would need the year to be really, really good. You would need it to be really good in order for him to stay. I, as of right now, don't see him staying. And if I'm Wes Unseld Jr., I want him to stay, but I also want guys that are ready to be molded. And if that means younger guys that I would have complete control over, not established ones that think they know everything, then this is the move. Then I would say go ahead and trade him. And it pains me to say it, but I would say
would any of you want to target Ben Simmons right now as the Wizards? If the 76ers came and said, we will give Ben Simmons to you for like we need a Russ Westbrook, would you do that?
You know my feelings on it. I probably wouldn't because I think just mentally, we're going to talk about the mental state of athletes and stuff like that. That's huge. That is a lot more important than just the physical tools. There's a certain prerequisite for physical tools, and Ben Simmons exceeds all of it. Flying colors. His talent is off the charts. But mentally, he is so locked up. I don't think he's ever going to break through from there. Maybe he will, but I don't think it would happen in Washington. I think it would have to happen in a more small marketplace. Like we were talking about, Spencer, pre-production. That's where it would have to happen.
Well, I think since you brought out Wes Unseld Jr., like there was I think it was an interview. I think he had already gotten the job when he was saying that looking at the Wizards, like they weren't too far away from being competitive. Like they needed just one more piece or something else. So at least if the Wizards are, listening to the coach they just hired, which I would hope they are, they would have to go with sort of that philosophy, right? That Bradley is an asset to absolutely keep, and that they should build around the current assets and try to get something in the near future. So I think you also have to remember that they did just hire a coach, and I would think that they would want to listen and go with what philosophy this new coach is bringing. I mean, why would you hire a guy and then not listen to them, right?
Well, I think that's coach speak, though. I think sometimes they just say the right things in the press conference. He's not going to say we're far away. Not with Brad and Russ on the roster.
Also, you hired a coach because he had good developmental skills. And so
there you go. We talked about that.
So
yeah, I mean, good developmental skills if we're not going to turn him over in 2 or 3 years, because we know what could happen, right? If Brad doesn't come back. To answer Spencer's Ben Simmons thing, unless we're doing some sort of situation where you trade Rui, Denny, and the entire youth cast along with draft picks to go get him, I don't know if I'd move a Russ for Ben Simmons. I'm absolutely not moving a Brad for Ben Simmons. But if you tell me I could have Ben Simmons and those other 2 guys on the team, yeah, I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
And then you could play Ben Simmons at power forward or something like that. It doesn't have to be a guard.
Don't we need a big guy?
But I don't think the 76ers would take that, to be honest. I think that they would want – they need their point guard, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So real quick, because I do think we need to move on, that trade offer, okay? So I know for a lot of us, we wouldn't trade Brad unless it was for a lot, right? But that trade offer that the Warriors have proposed online, it's not their trade offer, but let's say it were real. You're the GM, you're Tommy Shepard. You were offered James Wiseman, last year's number 2 overall pick. You're offered Andrew Wiggins, who it's really a salary dump. And then you're offered picks 7 and 14 in this year's draft. So you'd have picks 7, 14, and 15 in this year's draft. Do you take it, LC, beginning with you, yes or no?
I wouldn't. But if they do, then they would also need to do other moves. So also send Russell somewhere for more young, like you just fully blow it up. So no, if it were up to me, but if you do it, completely blow it up.
Okay. K-Dot?
Initial gut says no. I do like the idea of Wiggins and Russ. I like the idea of Russ being able to help develop Wiggins, though.
Spencer?
With that exact trade scenario, my answer would be yes. I would do that as the Wizards, and I'd keep Russell Westbrook. I would keep him for as long as I possibly can. I think he's a great locker room presence. I think that he is a veteran competitor, and he would help those young guys. And then in a year or 2, move him to a contender, and you're playing the game of hopefully Brooklyn goes down in 3 years, the Warriors are done in 2, LeBron retires, and then you're playing for 4 or 5 years from now.
Matt?
Yeah, I would definitely do that. Like I said, I think there's still a lot of untapped potential in Wiseman. And then you get 3 top 15 picks. Hopefully, sure, not every pick is Giannis, but I don't know, you get 3. That's three more shots at it. Or maybe you get 2 very good players, 1 role player off the bench. Yeah, there's a lot that can be done there. I would definitely take it. I would also trade Russ. Not to say necessarily for, you might be getting more veterans with that pick from Russ. So I would go all on the rebuild.
I'm actually not. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure Russ would necessarily want out. He may. It wouldn't surprise me, but I also wouldn't be surprised on the flip side that he chooses to stay. If I'm Tommy Shepard, as much as it pains me, because I don't want to, I want Brad to be here. I want him to sign that extension. I just think with Brooklyn, the way they are right now, with Milwaukee just winning and potentially adding more this offseason, I think you have to trade him. And I think this is probably the best it's going to get. And I would, again, do it today so that I can get those draft picks for tomorrow. I personally love Davion Mitchell in the draft. I would want to bring him in, and I think he has Donovan Mitchell potential. So why wouldn't you roll the dice if you know you like one of those guys at pick 7 overall? It doesn't sound like he's going to be there at pick 15. So I hate it, but I would do it just because I think we need to wait out some of these super teams and hopefully build something.
One thing I would add, though, is I think that scenario is a little too much that the Warriors are going to give away. I don't think the Warriors would do that.
They would absolutely give it up.
I don't think so. I don't think that they would give both picks. They would give Wiggins, Wiseman, and their 14. They're not going to give up their 7 because Wiggins is
You're not getting Beal in that case.
That's
Wiggins,
the 7 is the most valuable.
But then
Right.
they won't do that. They'll go get Siakam. So they're not going to give up those 4 pieces for Brad Beal because your defense is going to take a hit because Wiggins is a better defender than Brad Beal. I don't care what anybody says. And they're adding another offensive piece to a Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I don't know why.
It's an intriguing. Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, when you can have 3 elite options on offense. Yeah. Anyway, but we're moving on. Spencer, I actually want you to intro the next topic because I think you put it best when we were talking about this before recording. We're talking about the mental health of athletes here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing that's been on my mind through the Olympics, and even, we talked about Naomi Osaka in a previous episode, with the Olympics is this idea of 5, 6, maybe even not even 5 years ago, we had this idea of kind of the Mamba mentality, win at all costs. It's a very way of looking at sports, I think, of, we've got to dominate across the board, and especially in the Olympic Games. We want our American athletes to go and spread the message that we are a dominant nation. And in this Olympics, it's been very interesting because we have seen the rise of the idea of, not only are our Olympians not necessarily winning as much as we would like them to, but they're also dropping out, or there's kind of the movement of it's not as important as life and death, that their humanity, their mental health, and their character are bigger things than winning gold, winning championships. And so we were talking about this before the pod about, has the era of win at all costs left sports? Is this kind of a blip in the radar of that we're kind of having this mental health look and that it will return back to the Jordan Kobe mentality, or have we fully ascended into the sports is sports and it no longer matters if you are a true die to win type of person?
I think that's something is to sort of talk about how things have changed maybe in the population, obviously in the athletes, but I noticed something this Olympics that I don't think I would have noticed maybe in Rio, and it was when Ledecky, who's a local for us, she got a silver medal, right? Which I think was a 400, which means she's literally the second best in the world at what she does, right? At this event, she's the second best in the world. And the first question that she got in her interview was, when did you feel the tide turning? She didn't even get a congratulations from it wasn't even like, hey, good job being the fucking second best in the world at this. The first question implication was, what do you think happened for you not to be number 1? And I think that me as a viewer, I don't think I would have noticed that before, what we've seen in the last couple of years of talking about how the press treats athletes, how the athletes feel about when they have to perform at this level. And I think that for me was sort of like a moment was like, hold on, interviewer, time out. This person just won the silver medal. That's not minor. But it's not gold. And I think today with, in the last couple of days with the gymnastics team, there's been sort of a similar discussion too, right? A lot of people thinking they got silver and it's as if they had lost everything. And I'll say one more thing. It feels like America treats every single athlete in the Olympics like Argentina treated Messi. You didn't win? Well, fuck you. You got second? We don't give a shit. And so it's interesting to see that sort of win it or, you know, or bust. And I think that at least for me, it was sort of like a reflection moment. Like I just noticed that interviewer was just not asking the right question.
No, that's totally fair. And there certainly is, when it comes to the Olympics, American arrogance. We do believe our athletes are the best. We invest so much in sports in this country that we do expect it as well. And I think that's why you saw the question, the way it was phrased. When did you feel the tide turn? Because Ledecky was so dominant in the Olympics prior that you then go, the expectations first place. So you didn't get it. So there goes your congratulations. What the hell happened? Is instead the question. To answer yours, Spencer, I think we are going to enter an era where it's hybrid, right? We have people like Giannis, for example, who still has that Mamba mentality. Even in his MVP speech, he said, there's sometimes I don't want to play basketball, but I'm still out there. I'm still putting in the reps and I'm still getting it done because I want to put on for the city of Milwaukee and how much faith they had in me and the trust. And you see that and you celebrate it. That's amazing. And then you see on the flip side, like a Naomi Osaka or like a Simone Biles who goes, you know what? My head's not quite right. I made a couple of mistakes in prelims. Granted, I know I'm the best in the world, but I'm not there. And my teammates are incredible. I feel like they can carry us to gold. They end up getting silver. But I believe because social media is here, you see KD with burner accounts on Reddit threads defending himself as other people. The mindset and mental challenges have changed. Everything you do is under a microscope. That is a lot of pressure. And I think for some people, and actually a lot of people admit, at least some don't admit it to themselves, it does affect them. And I think that you are going to see more people maybe sit out now and then, but that does not mean the Mamba mentality or that win at all costs idea has gone for many, many more of these athletes. I think they're still going to continue on these paths. These are their crafts, their passions, and they're going to continue to attack them. I just think you're going to see a little bit more of both. I do think it's going to be more of a hybrid style moving forward.
I think that right now what you're seeing societally is a change in the way we look at everything, right? So I worked for a Fortune 100 company, training people and basically brainwashing them into thinking that you had to show up to work 50 hours a week, put your life on the line for the job, right? And now if you look on social media, there's everybody basically saying that there's a rejection of that entire mentality of the way to do things. And I applaud it. Because, I mean, to me, it's just there's a reprioritization of things. I've said it for years. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are fucking sociopaths. They're crazy. Like that, when you made that comparison to Giannis is not Mamba mentality. There are only a few people that are Mamba mentality. Mamba mentality means you are putting getting it done on the court or whatever it is your goal is in mind. It's the only thing that matters. There is nothing else that matters other than accomplishing that goal. And it's the same reason when watching The Last Dance and seeing Michael Jordan, and I knew that he had final license over creativity of that documentary, they rarely went into the dynamic of what it meant for him as to be the athlete that he was and what it meant to his family. And what it is, you hear the rumors that talk about as far as his kids knowing that he was never the fuck around, and there is some hostility there. They didn't even touch it. And that was something I was hoping they were going to get into in The Last Dance. They couldn't touch it because it's a touchy thing for him. And you can see every time he talks about the mentality of what he had to do, he gets tears in his eyes because he knows what he had to sacrifice to do it. It's the same mentality you had Ronnie Lott willing to cut off his fucking finger to come back in the second half of a football game. There's a psychosis almost with this. And there needs to be a reprioritization. I think the Olympics is another thing as far as reprioritization. The reason I say that Team USA is not going to get gold, they don't get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to go play in the fucking Olympics. Why do I care as much? You have to kind of pick and choose. If you're looking, everybody has this whole national pride shit, right? And if we're talking about a national pride thing, as a black man in America after experiencing what we experienced over the last year, am I really supposed to have that much fucking pride? Like, I understand being prideful for my country, but if I just came after a shortened off season in my NBA season, I then had to play a full season. Everybody fell down. Then you want me to go overseas during a hotspot COVID pandemic and play my all? and I'm not getting paid tens of millions of dollars to go do it, I don't care as much. I don't. There's a reprioritization of all these different things that you have to kind of look at as a business decision, as a life decision, as all these things, your mental health. When you see Kyrie that took a week off in Brooklyn last year, why? I just need to get away. None of his teammates questioned a goddamn thing. The media wanted to question it, but none of his teammates said anything negative about it. Why? Because they understood. He needs to take a break. When you get Kevin Love start talking about his mental, the things that he had to deal with mentally, and he needed to take away and take a step back so he can then come back and do what it is that he needs to do. Their people are reprioritizing the things that matter most.
Matt, before you go, because you haven't spoken yet, I do want to challenge you, Kadeen, on one point. I totally agree with the vast majority of things you said, but the interesting thing that you bring up is the idea of money. And I think that actually money is one of the things that actually destroys mental health and destroys the way that sports are the way that athletes move about the world, and the want for more content to generate more money and to get more ads. Do you think that money is the thing that is most, I mean, I know your answer, but like you're saying that, the Olympics, you're not getting paid. Is being paid and making money the thing that makes it okay to
You
move?
need to look at what money means. You need to look at most of these athletes that come from impoverished neighborhoods with a family that we don't know if the lights are going to get turned on. I go through how many years of college where I'm not allowed to get paid. Now I'm an athlete, and I need to make sure that I earn what it is I can earn so I have generational wealth within my family. That means something. It's not just the dollars and cents that, I want to go buy a Rolls Royce. It's I'm going to do everything I can do to put my family in a position in which we don't have to struggle anymore. Like, this is what the NBA has done in a lot of ways. When you look at some of the ways that these salaries have impacted people's families and the peace of mind in knowing that I don't have to worry about what's going to be for dinner tonight. Like, that to me means something. And there is, once again, do I think money's the top priority? No. But it's up there. Is it more up there than it is to go be under the limelight in Tokyo, where the first thing I got to hear from anybody is, why didn't you win? Compared to, hey, I can rest my mental on this shit because it don't matter all that much. I'll go pay attention to the thing that's actually going to put food on my table.
So, all right. So I would say in general, I think there's a general sentiment that I agree with, but there are a lot of specifics that were mentioned that I disagree with. First of all, silver medals and bronze medals are celebrated all the time in the Olympics. All right. You mentioned Katie Ledecky and Simone Biles. They are two generational talents. Simone Biles is in the greatest of all time athlete discussion. Right. Katie Ledecky might be joining that too. All right. So, LC, how come, when the Suns lost, no one went, hey, Chris Paul, congratulations. Congratulations, Chris Paul. It's because there is an expectation, and, when it happened, it wasn't met. Right. That doesn't mean, is it harsh? Perhaps, but I bet Katie Ledecky was disappointed, honestly, that is where she is at as an athlete. It doesn't mean as we go down the road and look back, it's going to be, look at all the medals she won. Michael Phelps won bronzes, he won silvers. Like that's part of it. You want to look back but when someone is in the greatest of all time comparison, all right, and then came up short, that's going to be a question. Are you disappointed? Yeah, I'm disappointed. I bet she was disappointed. Secondly, Giannis has the Mamba mentality. I think lumping in the family thing is perhaps different, because when I talk about Kobe Bryant, yes, he had his family issues, but he clearly was closer with his family as his career went on. So I don't think lumping in, I don't necessarily know the specifics of really any pro athlete's family, but it was clear that as he went on, he was close with his family, at least at the outside looking in. I don't know about Jordan. So lumping them in together, Giannis clearly has some sort of Mamba mentality where he has clearly adapted himself. I mean, literally Mamba mentality, all the objectives that Kobe laid out for him, he went out and accomplished. So putting all those, together, I don't think that we've really hit on many valid points. Now, that being said, generally speaking, when it comes to health, I do think a Mamba mentality will continue to exist. I do agree it's back up to some extent where it's when you're on, it's kind of what we talked about with Osaka, where it was, people ridiculing her for not wanting to talk to the media. Well, that's not really part of the game. She's not getting better as a person. She's not getting better as a athlete, talking to the press, right? That's doing nothing to serve her end goals, right? And if that gives her stress, if the public gives her stress, then so be it. Simone Biles, I don't know all the details of what happened today. It's pretty fresh. Some people are saying maybe she did also twist an ankle. She did say it was mental health. So I don't really know all the details to it. So I don't want to speak on some grandiose terms. She was clearly out there, still willing her team on, became a top teammate, all while knowing all this is going to bring on, a bunch of questions and air around her. So all in all, I do think there's clearly a big priority being raised on mental health. I think it's fair. Everything we talked about with people needing to step away when they have to, like Naomi Osaka, I think has become a poster child in the best of ways, where she's like, I don't really need this right now. I can step away. She stepped away. No one's, really said, okay, let's take care of yourself, do your thing. We'll welcome you back with open arms when you're here. And so that being said, I think there is a precedence coming, but there's still a Mamba mentality, because to get to that level where we are talking about you on a local DC podcast, you have had to put in those shifts, and you have to continue to put in those shifts. And the reason we're talking about Giannis is because he has that Mamba mentality. That's my
yeah. And I just wanted to say on that note, because I think there may be a bit of a distinction, right? I think, Kadeen, when you were talking about the Mamba mentality, you're probably thinking they're away from family, they're doing whatever it takes, all costs, etc. Giannis works incredibly hard, but I think he's found a way to wear it better, probably in your definition of it.
There's a
balance.
Your
definition of it, and I think he's found that balance relative to Kobe Bryant and relative to Michael Jordan, based on your perceptions of them. I think Giannis has found it a whole lot better.
It's prioritization. It's literally the word. Look, it's the thing is that the best thing that happened to Kobe Bryant, and I say this as a dude who couldn't stand that fucker, and then went to a place in which I ended up having a lot of love for him. The best thing that happened to Kobe Bryant was those losing seasons at the end of his career in LA, because he was able to rebalance things in his own head compared to what it is that actually can happen, compared to what output I need to have and who it is I need to be for the guys around me, compared to I'm winning at all costs. Giannis and these guys, there is a balance. Yes, achieving these goals, winning gold, winning silver, winning bronze, working to the best of your ability to get shit done is something that should be applauded. But what it shouldn't be is to get that in place of time with family, in place of worried about your health, in place of your mental health.
And he's not going to.
Hold up. But what if that stuff is more important?
Huh?
That is a fair question. What if that's
more important to an individual?
Then that person has a warped sense of shit in their head. That's period. It's what it is. Like if you go through life thinking a gold medal means more than it is the time with your family, I'm sorry, sir. You need to see a psychiatrist. You're fucked up in the head. And there's no ifs,
I don't think that's not for you to say.
I'm actually going to agree with Matt there.
You can have this ultra capitalistic bullshit. I need to be the absolute best at the rate. Fuck that. This is where you have this new generation is pushing back. It's what you see when it comes to the four-day work week thing. It's what you're seeing when it comes to people saying that we need people to have time off. It's what you're seeing as far as all those aspects of things.
I don't disagree with anything of that. I think that those are unrelated. Right?
They're not unrelated. They're all bad together.
But also there's a scale on that too. Like one group of people is vying for hundreds of millions of dollars, and the other is saying like, I don't want to work for $15 an hour and work for 60-hour weeks. I mean, there's a little bit of a sliding scale on that, I think.
There's of course, as far as the ins and outs and as far as how the details themselves work out, when the numbers or the way that you live your life or your family dynamic is going to change, there are some universal things regardless. What the way the dynamics necessarily might work for you in certain aspects might be a little different, but overall, universally, there are certain things that people need to prioritize in life. And this is what you're seeing is the pushback of the professional athlete. Throughout the history of these sports, especially in America, we applauded the Ronnie Lotts and the guys who got concussions and ran back into the game because what? It mattered more than anything else to win, to be the best that you could possibly be and win. And these people we went through an entire lifetimes of thinking that that's the thing that mattered more than anything.
Yes, but so much has changed since then,
and
right?
This is what I'm saying is that things have changed. And I'm saying that right now what you're saying is you're always going to have somebody who does put the winning aspect above everything else. That's not going to change. You're always going to have people like that.
And they'll still be applauded.
They'll still be applauded, but there is going to be, I think, the level of discourse, at least what I see on Twitter sometimes, is when you have an athlete like in an NFL game and they get hit and they're down and you see that they're clearly concussed and they're trying to get back in the game. And you see the dudes you see the Twitter conversations always saying, it's like, man, I applaud him for wanting to try, but there's under no circumstance can you let that man back in that game.
Of course.
And that's the thing is that we're seeing is across the lines, people are reprioritizing the things that matter most.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have to move on. I think we have to move on for time. And we're going to shift from a very intensive debate into a no-hate debate, which I hate to make that hard left turn from a really important topic into a topic that literally has no bearing on anyone's life at all. But Amit, can you introduce today's no-hate debate? And it's going to probably start with Kadeen. And hopefully we should let Matt respond because we can continue this.
Yeah, no, and Spencer, thank you for guiding us through that. But I would say that this one is a matter of life or death, depending on the situation. The question is, what is the best in-home defense weapon that is not a gun? Let's say you're not a gun owner and someone breaks into your home. What are you using for self-defense? Could it be what K-Dot mentioned last week, which was a K-Dot?
Crossbow.
A crossbow. Could it be a crossbow or could it be something else? K-Dot, why don't you lead us through that? Why the crossbow? That seems a bit lethal.
Yeah, it's home defense.
That's not my argument against the crossbow.
That's not a problem.
Here's the thing. I will start on something a little serious before we start joking around more. I look back at home defense as a thing that I do care a lot about. I am a gun guy. I go to the range a lot. I'm actually really good with a lot of pistols on my hands. But I always think back anytime I'm thinking about home defense. I was even talking to my girlfriend about this the other day. I think of Sean Taylor almost every time. And the reason I think about Sean Taylor is that he was a convicted felon, or at least he had been convicted, which means he couldn't keep a gun. So that night when everything went down, where he would typically have a gun, he only had a machete. And we all know how that ended. And to me, it is something that I actually do think about as a home defense aspect. Now, the reason I go with crossbow is that it's the closest thing you're going to get to a gun if the rules are we can't have a gun. So what I did spend time doing over the course of the last week was pulling up YouTube. There are semi-automatic crossbows, baby. Cock, boom. Cock,
how many
boom.
Did you?
7.
Okay.
Now, I also saw my man, I forget his name, but he runs the Demolition Ranch YouTube channel, put body armor, which will stop a 9mm round. And that fucking, they call them bolts. They're not bows. Bolts are shot from a crossbow. That bolt was about 7 inches in that motherfucker. I'm just saying, I might have something that might be better than a gun. Because I'm going to light your ass up if you come into my home and I got my crossbow behind me. You're going to go bye-bye.
Okay, hang on. I have a question. Can you describe what the crossbow looks like? Because I'm feeling a little bit like, is this Game of Thrones Tyrion?
No.
Okay.
This is not Game of Thrones. This is not Tyrion having to wind up and crank the thing back. Okay. We're beyond that. They have crossbows that don't even have arms anymore. They're just slick. Everything is like, they got all these mechanisms and stuff in it. Actually, I went down a rabbit hole. This shit is insane. What they've got for this crossbow life right now.
Okay.
They got fully automatic crossbows too, but I just think they're a little too wily.
Okay, so I guess I didn't know the state of crossbow technology. Apologies to everyone here.
You should have.
For not knowing that.
I forgive you, Matt.
But okay, so the whole process seemed a little bit lengthy. Of like when someone's breaking in, they're not ringing on the doorbell. Coming in, you don't have time to get set up at the top of your fucking castle and aim down and fire away. Okay. I see it as a state of panic. You don't know what to do. You need to grab something. You need to grab something quick. You need to grab something mobile. So the crossbow to me takes too long. Now, that being said, I didn't understand that it's a quick load and fire. Maybe that could work. I don't know. You have to have your arrow. You're going to throw on your arrow satchel.
They're called bolts, not arrows. It's a crossbow.
Okay. All right. Anyways, it's a crossbow and arrow. So anyways, I thought of a couple things. I think my initial default is a T-ball bat. The aluminum ones, they're 2 feet, 18 inches long. Hide behind a door. Someone comes in, just give them a bop. little bop. Give him a little bop. He's done. Game over. Game over, right? Okay. It's mobile. It's quick. You can hide it anywhere, etc. Obviously, maybe a knife block would be nice too, but I'm not really good at throwing knives. But I would say my dark horse candidate for sure, is going to be a mini fire extinguisher. I kind of brought this up last time, and that's because it's dual purpose. Same thing. It's about the size of the baseball bat. So again, you can do the bop, bop. But before, if you're an open thing, you can turn off the lights, maybe turn them on, hit them with the little can't see you, then you bop them there. So it's just a lot of diversity. A lot of ways you can go at it.
I just hope you're
it's even a thing. If you want to, you can strangle them. I don't know if I would probably do that. So I just think there's enough versatility with that weapon that you're really going to get the job done.
Now, not to blow up your spot, for those who know where you live, do you have a mini fire extinguisher? If this were to go down, are you prepared?
I have a fire extinguisher, but I think I'm going to knock it to a mini fire extinguisher. It's too big.
Okay, so a mini one, and you have to keep it in your room, surely.
You should keep a fire extinguisher, I think, in your room.
Yeah, at all times. At all times.
General PSA, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
I'm genuinely confused. I don't have a fire extinguisher. I've never thought about it. Do I need to rethink this?
Yeah, you need to have one. It's very important.
So to put out fires and play whack-a-mole with cone shooters. Got it.
It's got to be ABC too, so any kind of fire. Yeah.
Huh.
Anyways, so that's my
mini
take.
fire extinguishers. I like the dual purpose behind that. Elsie, what are your thoughts? What are you using?
So in any hypothetical scenario, I think there got to be assumptions. So the number one assumption for me is the other person. I'm going to call him an opponent since we're a sports podcast. The opponent does not have a gun, right? Otherwise, don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
I'm assuming they have a gun, or do we? I'm assuming they have a gun.
You're assuming they do.
I'm
K-Dot's got a crossbow, so I think
I'm beating the gun, so we just now have.
Okay, well, fine. My assumption number 2 then is going to be elevated.
Dean's assuming they have body armor, so they got a gun.
Right.
Well, they're full body armor and assault weapons, apparently. And this is a team of them.
Baby.
Go ahead, Elsie. Go ahead
for the neck, I guess. So my assumption number 2 is I'm seeing red, meaning like I don't care about anything except this person in front of me, not going down, just fully dying. Like I need them to just be no longer alive. So if I have those 2 assumptions, they don't have a gun. If they have a gun, maybe I'll think about it. But I would still go with, have you guys seen Fortune Fire? It's a really good show. They make knives live. Like they literally just make knives. It's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. History Channel. Shout out.
Yeah, History Channel. It's great. It's history like for 30 seconds of the episode, but it's fun. I will go with one of those. They're like 18 inches, like a recurve Bowie. The things are like massive. They fit in your hand perfectly. They're custom made for your hand. And I would just say, look, I'm seeing red. I'm going full on like Counter-Strike, fucking wiping everywhere. Just this person is not going to make it through the stairs. That's it. So I'm just going all in.
Damn. You're with a knife?
Personal combat. Yes.
Okay.
And you're stabbing several times.
Many times, though.
Many times. And
do you think you could do that?
Well, that's why I said the assumption I'm seeing red. The assumption is I'm in a state in which I can do anything that it takes.
On the field, off the field, the man is lethal.
you just pop out of bed. You John Rambo, just right out of bed. Just no wiping the coal out of you. Just knife.
Lindsay is safe.
Here's my pillow. Here's my thing. Here's my thing with the crossbow and to an extent with the fire extinguisher is that the fire extinguisher you can use as a blunt weapon, but like you do need something to be ready for personal like contact, like really really close contact. Because if you only have a sort of distance or a range weapon, then if the person gets to you, then you're fucked, right? Like it's basically like if the infantry gets to the archers, like the archers are fucked. Like that's just how war goes. So I would like something that
Kadeen disagrees
ready for close contact.
I can see that you guys have not spent enough time thinking about home defense, which makes me feel like a paranoid person. But it is what it is.
Well, I made the assumption that they don't have a gun, so that may change the game as well.
Just 10 seconds. My entire crossbow deal is the same. I'm basically replacing the crossbow with what I would already do with a gun.
Sure.
Which is, I hear somebody in the house. I don't have kids. I got nobody else got to worry about. So you know what I do? I go on the opposite side of my bed, crossbow on the doorway, 911 on the phone. Anyone that walks through that door is getting lit up. I'm not going to go search through the house.
I'm not calling anybody.
He's calling 911 just to be like, watch what's about to happen.
What white Scooby-Doo shit am I doing running around my house trying to find out who's in the house that shouldn't be there? Hey, guys. No, I'm staying barricaded in a room, and if you come in, I'm going to kill you.
I'm throwing him. Hey, I think there's a fire in here.
So I have an assumption. The first thing I thought of was I'm assuming that the device has to be real and not fantastical, because I went straight to lightsaber. Man, if there was something real like that and I could have myself a nice green lightsaber, you could just cut your walls down. It'd be incredible. It'd be so nice. Then my head went to, Kadeen, you're right. I'm just not taking this seriously enough. Then it went to like Home Alone. Like, am I prepping for this? Like, I was putting up some fly traps earlier, and I was thinking, man, if someone walked into a bunch of fly traps and got stuck in their face, that stuff is nasty. It'd be horrible. They'd run away for sure. And then I guess if we have to go to actual realistic thing, I'm gonna go with I kind of agree. I don't know if I have it where I can hear as a knife goes into a body, like the squelch noises. But you know, but like has anybody ever used bear spray? Any backpackers out there? Now, bear spray is like the weaponized mace. It's gelatinous, so when it hits you, it's like in Jurassic Park when Dennis Nedry gets sprayed in the eyes and it's like that goop. It like hits you and it sticks to you. So it's not like you have to be within, a foot and you go tss. It's like you can shoot it from 15 feet away, and it's gelatinous and you can't see anything. It just totally overrides all your senses. I think a good can of bear spray is like, no one's coming at you. They can't shoot you. They can't come at you. Like, they don't know where you are because they're just got goopy bear mace in their face. I don't know. That's what I'm sticking with.
That's a good one.
Interesting. Weaponized mace.
They would just indiscriminately shoot. They can't see, so they just shoot. So your neighbors are not dead because you just shot this guy with breast.
I feel like we have the same answer, but I came in with the bop. Like, you got to follow it up with the bop.
That's true. You got to run it with the bop. Then I have a fire extinguisher, and
Also, Kevin McAllister is a psychopath too. From Home Alone, like, he's straight up Jigsaw, right? Like, he's just
Mamba Mentality.
The Mamba Mentality of home defense, right there.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. I mean, I just went baseball bat. I was thinking about it for a while, and I was like, you know what? You really can't go. Well, Barkley would lick him. Barkley would look for a treat. Yeah, no, I mean, aside from having a cup of tea and just reforming the individual, which is something I'm sure my parents would be proud of, if that's not a possibility, I got to go with the baseball bat and send them on their way. Just knock them out like Matt was talking about. Call the authorities and work on it. I don't want to kill. I don't want to kill. Solid bop. I don't want to kill the guy.
I'm not
ideally
saying want to. I'm saying I've seen red.
Well, Kadeen's also got. Kadeen's person's got 7 bolts.
Yeah.
You're done.
Out of anything I want or any rationalization is out. I'm seeing red.
LC, you want to murder someone. Just admit it.
I'm just saying so knock the guy out, and then I call 911. I sit there with the bat, and every few minutes when he moves a little bit, just give him a little hit, and then just make sure he stays. Yeah. You need to rebop. You got to rebop. Otherwise, you're in trouble. You can't turn your back. You got to wait.
Now they bring the rebop.
It's just like,
I should just get a crossbow.
I should get a crossbow. I should get a crossbow. Well, the bear mace sounded interesting as well. Any final thoughts? If you could switch yours based on what other people had mentioned, would you? Sounds like Matt may go crossbow.
I mean, there's a nice finality to a crossbow. It could do some deeds for me. I mean, the bear spray is nice, but then I feel like you have a person in my house who's just like in pain, and I don't really know what to do with them once they're kind of scrambling around.
They're just
screaming.
You're like, now what?
Just holding this gun, just shooting around.
He's just
Kadeen, I do have
Samming the whole thing.
I do have one question. The only thing I'm worried about for you is the cost of this. I know that cost isn't a factor necessarily, but your semi-auto crossbows are $3,300. I just don't know.
I almost pulled the trigger on a used one.
Pull the trigger.
I'm not even playing. Like, the crossbow thing is pretty freaking legit now. I've looked at it. Right? Pretty cool.
What's the used crossbow market like?
There's quite a bit, but then I was on a forum. I went as far into a forum, and they're like, you don't want to do the used ones because you don't know what people were doing with the wires. I'm like, okay, good to know, guys. Good to know.
Well, or they've been in some other home defense already. And
Yeah, LC used it after he stabbed up some guy in the face. Finish.
All right. I think
I
that's
have a
gonna
defense. I'm seeing red, but okay, go ahead.
I think that's going to conclude this segment. So this was the No Hate Debate. Best in-home defense weapon that is not a gun. And now we move on to the final segment, the State of the Union, your DC Sports wraparound coverage segment. And we are going to begin with Mr. Matthew Regan and the Washington Capitals. Go ahead, Matt. The floor is yours.
What's going on? Not totally ready for this
Just
right
call
now.
in.
Just
Good morning.
edit this-
And we got
this
Matt
out.
from
First time, long
Michigan.
time on it.
What's going on? Yo, what time is it in Tokyo, man?
Let me
Oh
quickly
my
look
God.
up what I was going to say.
What's
Amit,
going on?
Hey, Mike, the Mets suck.
All right, while that caller figures out what's going on. Oh, okay. Oh, he's ready.
I'm ready. Actually, come back to me.
All right, we are going to go back to Matt. Elsie, I don't believe there's any Old Glory update, but if you want to just quickly say, I think the season ended, yeah?
The season in the last week for Old Glory, but the semifinals were played, and now the finals for the championship of the Major League of Rugby are this Sunday. It's the LA Guillotines. Don't let me get started on the name. It's a long story. Against Rugby ATL for Atlanta. The finals are Sunday at 4 p.m. August 1st. So if you want to watch the top game for the championship, that's the day.
LC had more non-DC rugby information than Matt had information for the Washington Cap. Oh, no. He's ready. It looks like he's ready. Matt from Michigan, the floor is yours once again. Good to have
First
you
of
on.
all, hey, thanks for calling. I'm a big fan. I just want to make sure I had all the details right. So going in chronological order, the Seattle Kraken selected Vitek Vanacek from the Capitals. Solid. He was the backup goalie last year. Puts a lot more pressure on Samsonov, who had kind of an up and down year as his first year as a starter. So we'll see if they go for a backup option, who's more of a 1B for the Capitals going into next season. After that, should away Brendan Dillon to the Winnipeg Jets for 2 second-round draft picks in the next couple of seasons. The main reason they did that is to free up space for franchise leader in goals, Alex Ovechkin, 5 years, $9.5 million. Still going for it. No big surprises there. Pretty, I think the cap hit is about what people expected. 5 years was long, but it's Ovi paying what he wants. I think the goal is now to go after that all-time goal.
Really quick. There is a Winnipeg Jets in the NHL.
Did you not know
Winnipeg
this? Yeah,
Jets.
Winnipeg Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Solid
Wow.
team.
When were they last relevant?
They were good in
Okay.
2017 era. Had some good rivalries with
Since
the
they've
Nashville
been the
Predators.
Jets, because they used to be the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was also a previous Winnipeg Jets, and they became the Arizona Coyotes. It's all kind of
Okay.
like the
I'm from Atlanta
Well,
to
we had the
Winnipeg.
Expos
Charlotte-
for
it's
a
like the
while,
Charlotte
sort of
Hornets
similar
kind
to
of
that
thing.
as well. Okay. No, thank you for the update, Matt. It's $9.5 million annually, I assume, not 5 years, 9.5 total, right?
correct.
Okay,
9.5
yeah.
average value.
Okay, got it. Thank you for that update on the Washington Capitals. K-Dot, I think we got ourselves a pretty big Washington football team update. Go ahead.
Yep, finally don't get to really talk about Dan Snyder and all of his shenanigans. There's some good news coming out of Washington, which is that some re-signings did take place. Number one was Jonathan Allen, re-signed 4 years, $72 million. Gets him right around $18 million a year, which puts him, as far as from a yearly salary point, 4th in the NFL as far as defensive tackle. But it also locks him up for 4 years. So when you've got other guys that are right around there, like Kenny Clark, DeForest Buckner, Aaron Donald, who sets the market, you've come in low, you've got him for a few years, and you didn't have to break the bank to do it. Amazing move. Then there's also, they re-signed Logan Thomas, a 3-year extension, which is also a good move. He had a hell of a year last year, kind of outperformed what anybody really expected him to do. And it was an integral piece in the way that the team moved on. And I'm really, really excited to see him play with some good quarterbacks behind there, because, our quarterback position was just trash last year. So you got those two guys. And the thing that I really want to harp back to when it comes to these two contract signings, if you look historically in Washington, I started looking back at defensive players that we drafted that got to a second contract. This is like 2000. Sean Taylor, of course, didn't. He would have. If I look beyond that, I think the only guy was Rocky McIntosh that made it to a second contract without getting franchise tagged. So, if I'm looking through that, I'm like, yo, this is dope. And if you're looking as far as a team who's notoriously not known for paying guys that they develop and people go on, if you look at Preston Smith or Brian Arakpo was another guy that we re-signed for, I think it was 2 franchise tags before he left. It's always we're franchise tagging people. They're getting really upset with the fact that we did it. It ends up making Washington not a really relevant place to go to. But right now, it looks like we're really putting a piece together where we become a very, very attractive team. Curtis Samuel, other news, is on the PUP list to start off training camp. Apparently, there was a lot of rumors that like 15 players got diagnosed with COVID. Apparently, for him, it's not COVID. They're just holding him out for a precaution, but it's not supposed to be a big deal at all. And then outside of those things, the other big news would be Ron Rivera was questioned about what it is. There was a report that came out that Washington's the least vaccinated team in the NFL. I think that we had our players, it was less than 50%, which is really alarming when you've got a Ron Rivera who just went through chemo treatment, has a compromised immune system, and is trying really hard to get these guys to buy into the vaccinations. We tried it earlier in this offseason with the Montez Sweat situation, which I do not want to rehash because I want to like that guy. But it looks like they're really going to try to bring it home that these guys need to be vaxxed. I am worried that Jack Del Rio's on the team, and I don't know what the hell he's doing as far as vaccinations because I know he's a little out there with some of his shit. But, I mean, overall, other than the vaccination stuff, great week in Washington. And, I mean, great not just for the guys that we get extended, but great for what it means for the organization and being a free agent destination.
Speaking of free agent destination, how do you think you were saying it sets us up for a quarterback next year, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So that's the thing, is that right now, because of the way these contracts happen, like the only guy that you really have to look at that needs a new contract is Brandon Scarif. And I think right now it looks as though he's just not going to be back, which is fine by me, honestly. As much as he's a great guard, he is just a guard. And overall, the offensive line has played pretty well. With not having to break the bank to pay him who's oft injured, we are going to have some salary cap room where if you have this defense, which is top 2 last year, if we're top 2 this year, and the offense is clicking to a certain degree, and you've got a Ryan Fitzpatrick that's like doing things but not great, like what we kind of expect him to be, there are some guys that are going to be available next year. You got Aaron Rodgers' situation in Green Bay. He's back, but he's going to be able to walk away, no strings attached next year. You got Derek Carr's contract situation. I don't think Vegas is going to want to franchise tag him. I think he's probably going to end up walking too. You might have a situation where if you're a quarterback, especially a guy like Aaron Rodgers, whose main issue in Green Bay has been them not putting together a defense. If I know that I have a defense and I got burners and Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas becoming a thing on his own, Antonio Gibson in the backfield, that looks like a very attractive place to go win yourself a Super Bowl.
I love the sound of that. I absolutely love the sound of that. Now, we'll see what happens. That would be 2022, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, 1 year, $10 million, which means he wouldn't necessarily be back next year. Now, on the off chance that Taylor Heineke is not the best quarterback in the NFL by next season, we can go shopping if we really, really need to, but look out for that.
Which is another thing as far as this front office, which is that they did not break the bank as far as quarterback this offseason.
Correct.
And that to me is a good thing. They didn't go and reach in the draft or anything because they set themselves up perfectly. I've always wanted them to get a veteran bridge guy. This is perfect. With the way free agency is lining up and the way our contracts are, this is absolute perfection.
Yeah, for the amount of dysfunction in the organization over the past 20, 30 years, I have to applaud this front office and this team. They've turned their culture around, and the cap space, 4th most entering next season. So they can definitely make moves along with the potentially elite defense, top 2 last season. So lots to look forward to if you're a Washington football team fan. We're going to conclude with the final 3 teams, the Nationals, the Washington Spirit, and DC United. So beginning with the Nationals, they suck. I think it's finally time to admit that. I was holding on to hope for a while, but when you lose to the Orioles and then you're losing to the Phillies, who you tend to split with, it's over. We've lost 5 in a row. We're now 8.5 games back in the NL East to the New York Mets, and the trade deadline is on Friday. You could see names like Max Scherzer, Brad Hand, maybe even Trey Turner. Matt had mentioned his name on the trading block. We'll see what happens with the Washington Nationals if they'll keep the nucleus together. But for now, looks like the season is a lost cause and they will be sellers at the trade deadline. We'll see what Mike Rizzo, the GM, does there. Coming up on the schedule, they continue with the Philadelphia Phillies. Then they play the Chicago Cubs and then the Phillies one more time next week. On to the Washington Spirit. Much, much better on the soccer front for both the Spirit and DC United. 2-0 win for the Washington Spirit against Racing Louisville. Ashley Hatch scored the first goal of the game very early on. And Sam Staub, who got wrongfully sent off last week, had an appeal. They won the appeal, the Washington Spirit did, and she ends up scoring the second goal of the game. So great to have her back. 2-0 win against Racing Louisville. They move up to third place in the NWSL. So up next for them, they have a game against the Chicago Red Stars at Chicago Sunday at 6 p.m. The game can be seen on Paramount Plus. And finally, DC United, a 1-0 win over the New York Red Bulls. Ola Kamara got the winner in the first half from Julian Gressel, who was man of the match that day. DC United move up to 8th place in the Eastern Conference. And up next for them, Saturday at 7:30 p.m. at FC Cincinnati. The game can be seen on DCUnited.com or NBC Sports Washington. Real quick, our Olympians, Taylor Knibb finished 16th in the triathlon at about 2 hours. Congratulations. It's pretty kick-ass that we had an Olympian who went to, I believe it was Sidwell, otherwise it was NCS, over there. 2 hours. Triathlon.
That's
amazing.
insane, man.
Absolutely insane. And then we had Kat Holmes in fencing. The U.S. team lost in the quarterfinals to Japan. So unfortunately, neither person medaled, but an amazing accomplishment nonetheless. And then we have our women playing for Team USA. Tina Charles, Ariel Atkins, they beat Nigeria 81-72. Tina Charles got 6 points. Ariel Atkins only played a minute or two, but still participated. And I think that is about it for the Olympians. Of course, Kelly O'Hara, Emily Sonnet with the U.S. women's national team. They take on the Netherlands Thursday night, Friday morning around, I think, 4 a.m. So if you're a diehard U.S. women's national team fan, go for it.
I think it may be a more palatable time. I think it may be at 7 a.m.
Oh, 7 a.m.
Yeah, we may need to check on that. Yeah, exactly.
I can absolutely do 7
We can rally.
Oh, we can rally. We can rally. And we may need you guys to rally too. This is District Divided. I am Amit. That is Matt. That's LC. That's Spencer. That's K. Thank you as always for listening to our very fun ideas about an in-home defense weapon that isn't a gun, for listening to us talk about mental health. And of course, the Bradley Beal trade. Please comment and tell us if you would trade Bradley Beal for the package that the Warriors would have, or just make up your own, and we'll just say, yes, that's a great idea. And once again, District Divided, I am Amit, Elsie, Matt, Spencer, K. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Take it easy, everybody.
If we lose or Ryan, scrap U.S. basketball.
The old double outro by Amit.
Figure we give it a whirl. Peace.